We have on the phone the state representative from the great District 66. Josh Miller is with us. Josh, welcome, sir.
Hey, Paul. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I wanted to have you on because I found out last night that there's a ton of stuff going on yesterday, but I found out last night that the Public Health Committee on the Senate side met to hear your bill to freeze Medicaid expansion enrollment because it skyrocketed. It started out, there was only going to be 215,000 people in the program. Now we're in the middle, 330,000, 340, who knows? Could be 400,000 if we don't get a handle on this. You had a common sense bill, but it failed out of the Senate Public Health. We know the governor doesn't support it. It's amazing that he doesn't. What? Just kind of walk us through what happened.
Well, we ran the bill. Senator Flippo was carrying it for me over in the Senate, and anyway, got in there and presented it, and thought we had a good opportunity to get it passed. DHS had their representation in there to oppose the bill, which was no surprise, and they had more projections and more phony numbers.
Yeah, had Kelly Link actually read the bill this time, or did they not let him bat this time? Did they say maybe you should ride the bench, Kelly?
Well, Kelly had read the bill, and he was in there. He had backup, and some financial officer they had in there, and they were talking about the revenue that the state was going to lose if we don't have the ability to sign more folks up.
Yeah,
blah blah blah.
They're just they want a big government program to get as big as they possibly can, and they're willing. In my opinion, these are my words. They're willing to just lie. They're willing to absolutely lie every single time, and that's where I am with these bureaucrats that come to the end of the table and mislead everybody. But continue, Josh. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. It was said repeatedly that the department and the governor and I are all on the same page, and we're all striving for the same goal or same result. Which I would love to believe that's true. I would also love to believe that we live in utopia, and I know that's just not true. So. Anyway, I just kept thinking, well, if we're all trying to accomplish the same thing, why are y'all here in opposition to this bill? And so, anyway, again, their figures are all about, they're basically making the assumption that we're going to lose all this revenue if we stop signing new people up, because my bill kicked no one currently on the program off, which. Personally, I would like to just see the whole thing shut down, but I understand that may not happen. And so, we had a debate, and the question was asked, is it true that you're basically basing your numbers off the assumption that we're going to just that we're going to, in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to sign up as many people per year as we've signed up the previous 3 years, which, heck, that would have us up over 600,000.
Good grief,
people.
yeah. That'd be a disaster.
I hope that's not the case. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, pay the day of paying the piper is coming, and I don't know if the governor and the folks over there are just not paying attention to what's going on, or if they think that Washington D.C. is going to somehow or another give Arkansas a free pass on, hey, we're going to raise everybody else's Medicaid matching rates in the country except Arkansas or something. I don't know, but it's not making a lot of sense to me.
All right, so we're
anyway,
talking with.
It was very disappointing to see it.
I understand. So tell me how did it fail? Did it fail on a voice vote? I'm assuming, right?
It failed on a voice vote. There were 6 folks in the 6 committee members present. You had Chairman Bledsoe, and then there were only two no's that were vocal in the committee. One of which wasn't a surprise, and then Senator John Cooper from the Jonesboro area.
He voted no. He voted no on the freeze.
He did vote no. Yes, sir. That was a real disappointment.
Oh, that's a huge disappointment because Senator John Cooper, he's a Republican from Jonesboro. He ran an entire primary campaign against the private option. And he caved and he went along with Senator Jim Hendren, who misled the entire conservative base in this state by saying his bill was going to end Medicaid expansion. And Senator Cooper went out of his way last time in the Public Health Committee to kill Linda Collins-Smith's bill to end Medicaid expansion back in 2015. This is really, it's becoming a pattern that Senator John Cooper is not a man of his word if you go back and listen to his campaign rhetoric. It's obvious. It's clear. And I'd like to ask you, State Representative John Miller, on this particular issue. I know that you went and, well, let me ask you, did you campaign for Senator John Cooper back when he was running and everybody thought he was a conservative?
Absolutely, I did. I'd gotten to know Mr. Cooper and his wife, and they had supported me in my races, and he's a Baptist preacher. My dad is a Baptist preacher, and a lot of folks know my dad, David Miller, up in the Jonesboro, Northeast Arkansas area, and Dad went to work and made a lot of phone calls to a lot of folks in churches that he was familiar with up there. I called several folks. I got I've donated time and finances to Senator Cooper's campaign, and regrettably, I have to say I wish I hadn't done it at this point.
Really? That's how you feel? Because this was about this big issue. I mean, he won the primary for sure because of his opposition, his firm stance against the private option. And it still remained an issue in the campaign against Democrat Steve Rockwell. Governor Beebe was trying to lead him on to the coattails, saying he was going to end Medicaid expansion, and Cooper embraced that. And yet then he just gets down there and tells everybody he's a lot smarter once he gets down there and that he can't end it. So you actually wish that you hadn't supported him. Is that right?
I do now. I mean, it's nothing personal. I feel like, Senator Cooper's probably a decent man, but I know that we all looked at things back in 2013 and 14, and we thought, we've lost now when the private option first came along. But we had hope. We thought, we're just a few members away. If we can get a few real conservatives elected, we can turn this thing around. We can alter the course of this ship before it gets too off course.
You know what?
Anyway. It's just really disappointing to see somebody who ran on one issue. I would feel like I was misleading my constituents if I got out here and ran on one issue and then acted completely opposite.
Yeah, and that's why I say on this issue, that's why I say on this issue he wasn't a man of his word. I know you can't say that in public life now. People get all upset, but it's the truth. And you know what the biggest irony is after Senator Cooper won based on ending Medicaid expansion, and we're not even talking about ending it. We're just talking about the fiscally prudent thing to do, which is to freeze enrollment because it's skyrocketed. More than 100,000 people are on it, and we were only supposed to have 215. John Cooper wins. He goes over to Senate District 17 in the Twin Lakes area, and he campaigns for Scott Flippo against John Burris. Scott Flippo, a political newcomer, wins against an establishment candidate, against somebody that outspent him 3-1, and then John Cooper himself turns into John Burris. I mean, that's essentially the way I see it. And John Cooper campaigned for Scott Flippo because he wanted Scott Flippo to vote against the private option because that was the deciding issue up there or over there. And then John Cooper now disagrees with Scott Flippo, who was running the very bill that was your bill in the House, and he was running it in the Senate committee. We're talking with State Representative Josh Miller. Let me ask you about J.R. Davis. J.R. Davis has been out there saying that this bill creates an artificial freeze. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I've been made aware that I've read that in a couple of publications that's Now, this is the J.R. Davis, that's the governor's spokesperson.
Yeah, the governor's spokesperson. Yeah, that's who I'm talking about.
I'm assuming that he is just he's saying what the governor has said or is putting that out there. Hopefully that's not just his own personal opinion, that he's interjecting for the governor, and it's not the governor's opinion. But anyway, yeah, they were talking about it creating an artificial cap, which I found kind of funny, because I thought, well, after this, if this bill were, to pass, and if we were to be granted this the ability to do this by the federal government, which is another thing that my bill did, it simply instructed DHS to ask the federal government, CMS, Secretary Price at Health and Human Services, if we could freeze enrollment on July the 1st of this year. They could have said no, albeit I have it on pretty good authority. I think they would have welcomed
yes, they would have
that request.
Yes.
And
ASA
so
knows
anyway,
it.
They say artificial cap, and I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure that whatever the number is on after July the 1st, if it was 292,000 or if it was 351,000 or whatever, I think that's going to be a very real cap, and there's nothing artificial about that. About 48 hours after they put that out there, the governor holds a press conference and releases his 4 waivers or 4 reforms that he wants to make in the Medicaid expansion program. And one of them is capping enrollment at 100% of the federal poverty level. Now, if you want to talk about artificial caps, reducing the enrollment or reducing the eligibility from 138% of the federal poverty level to 100% is as artificial as it gets. I mean, that's phony as monopoly money. There could be an individual out here making 110% of the federal poverty level, and they find out that we're going to drop eligibility to 100%. Well, then they go out here and work 3 hours a week less, or show that they've worked 3 hours a week less, and drop down to 98% of the federal poverty level and stay on the program. That's artificial.
That is artificial.
Is an artificial cap.
Yeah, they project. They project on you what they themselves are guilty of, and they don't want the program to shrink. J.R. Davis's boss doesn't want the program to shrink because these hospitals are telling him and paying for his campaign, saying, "Hey, we need this money to survive," and they're making money hand over fist. Hospitals. This has been the biggest scam in Arkansas history, where the government decided to guarantee insurance companies a revenue stream to the tune of $500 a person per month. It's the biggest scam ever. They would never do it for your business, but they'll do it because they've got enough lobbyists. I don't know. I hope one day we'll be able to be like Mary Mayhew up in Maine, the director of DHS up there, because they expanded Medicaid before Obamacare, and they had similar results. It was a complete disaster, and now they know that it's not hard to give away a free product. People will come out of the woodwork, and it can potentially bankrupt your state. And we're already in a budget crisis. They're trying to raise $600 million from the people of Arkansas down there when you take into effect the internet tax, the gas tax, and the other taxes that they're putting on us, because Asa knows he's out of money. He can't quit spending. He can't keep his campaign promises. Do what?
Do they know that? Do they know that, though? I'm not sure they do.
The people of Arkansas?
No, the governor. Does the governor know that he's out of money? I'm not sure. I haven't seen enough substantive action out of the second floor to know that for me to know that they know they're out of money. I'm just not.
Well,
I'm not seeing it.
It's just my speculation. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. Why else make Republicans fall on your sword like they have time and time again this session if we are not in dire straits? If they don't see down the road and they're like, oh, wow, we're out of money. I mean, we already know in January we were $60 million behind projections with 5 months left. They had a pretty good February, made some of it up. But I'm telling you, they need – it's just a gut feeling. We're in a giant budget crisis. Josh Miller, let me ask you this. Governor Hutchinson is not a conservative, in my opinion. And it's to the point where he's not even close to a conservative. He's terrified of bathroom bills that are nothing to do with a bathroom bill, by the way. It's a privacy. He was scared of the Second Amendment. You know, he put the hostile amendment, had his nephew's nephew, the people of Arkansas. I mean, Governor Hutchinson is convinced he's not going to have any sort of challenger come from the right in a primary, let's say. What do you think about that?
Well, Paul, I tell you, I think there's a lot of folks out here in the state of Arkansas who need to be aware of the things that you just mentioned, and I think that you know, I mean, when you look at it, I hope that he does. I hope somebody you know is in a situation to make a run, because we need leadership at the Capitol that is going to straighten some of this out. Otherwise, the state of Arkansas is going to be in such a mess financially, and then you know, I mean, you're talking about low hanging fruit. You're talking about Second Amendment stuff. You're talking about moral issues. I mean, I go back 2 years ago to the religious freedom bill. We had to water down a religious freedom bill for him to sign it, and it was so watered down that Ellen DeGeneres gave kudos to it. If Ellen DeGeneres has given a props to a religious freedom bill, that's not a religious freedom bill I want to support. I hope someone finds themselves in a position to run.
Well, you're going to kill me, Josh. You're going to kill me. But my next question is, what about Josh Miller?
Well, it's flattering, Paul, that folks would, that anybody would even mention that. But I never rule anything out. But I'm just honored to get to serve my district right now, and I'm gonna finish up the session and catch a breath and see, kind of see what lays in store after that. But somebody definitely needs to, and I hope a lot of folks are giving that some serious thought.
State Representative Josh Miller from the great District 66. Thank you so much for coming on, sir, and thank you for, filing a conservative bill. I'm just sad the Republicans, once again, like John Cooper, shoot it down. So I appreciate it, sir.
Well, it is sad. Paul, I appreciate you having me, bud.
All righty.
What you do.
Have a great weekend. Folks, it's Johnny Cash Friday. Got to go. Back in a minute.